So welcome everyone. My name is Julie and I'm a reference associate here at Ritter Public Library. And I'm here with Jen from Refill Goodness in Lakewood. And we're going to talk a little bit about the zero waste lifestyle, kind of what that entails, the background of it, and kind of what Jen and their store does. And if you have any questions during the talk here, you can put them in the chat Q&A area. We can try and get to those as time allows. So I guess I'll hand it over to Jen if you want to kind of tell us, starting off, like what is zero waste? Why should people consider it? Just kind of give us the overview.
Yeah, so, we like to use the term low waste because zero waste sometimes can be a little bit far reaching and overwhelming. And really, when you're trying to live a lower waste lifestyle, you're really just trying to choose products that are packaged minimally or packaged not at all, and creating less waste in the landfill. So this might be as simple as purchasing your veggies from a farmer's market as opposed to wrapped in plastic from the Aldi, or being able to source products that come without packaging that you can refill. Which living sustainably has been something that has been of interest to me for the past several years. And I just found that there was a hole in being able to source products that allows you to generate less waste and to really be using the resources that you have. So that was sort of the push to launch Refill Goodness. Refill Goodness kind of was grown from a place of wanting to be able to source projects without packaging in a refill format. We call ourselves an eco market and a mobile refillery. Right now we are operating out of the Screw Factory, which is in Lakewood. It's an artist loft community. So we've got a small space there, kind of our workspace, and we have a little shop in there as well. We do in-person shopping appointments, curbside pickup, and right now we're doing delivery in Cuyahoga County. Our goal eventually is to become mobile and have a outfitted mobile unit that we can take the refillery directly to people's homes and businesses and local events and give them the opportunity to shop and refill all of their cleaning products, beauty essentials, DIY staples, all in one contained mobile unit. The idea was born sort of during quarantine from a bit of a dream of mine, and also, again, sort of a hole in being able to source products in a lower waste manner. And we joined forces. I'm lucky enough to have a crew of women that have been building the business along with me. My co-founder, Jenny Vedrani, is based in Maryland. And then we have Rochelle Ray, who's our social media guru and all around girl in the know. She's here with us today, so I'm super excited. And then we've got Amy Missel, which is our business project manager, who kind of keeps us on task and helps us to achieve our goals. So within that crew, we've been able to build and launch Refill Goodness as of Small Business Saturday of last year, which was the last weekend in November, yes. And so we've been up and running for 3 months now, and we are working towards our mobile unit so that we can source, make sustainability really simple for everyone, so that it makes it not quite a task to overcome, but something that's easy to work into your lifestyle.
That's great, because I think locally, like, I'm not as familiar with places like kind of a refillery kind of place. So I don't know if you guys are kind of one of the first in the area.
Yeah, there's several other that have been popping up. I feel like this is a concept that's taken root on the West Coast, and also over in the UK. They have shops where you can source practically everything, your foodstuffs, your refillery, sort of cleaning products and beauty items, the whole shebang, which would be sort of like the ultimate dream down the line. But right now we're focused on 3 rooms of the home, which are the bathroom, the kitchen, and the laundry room. So we provide products like laundry soap and cleaning products, as well as other types of eco-friendly tools that would replace your traditional plastic items. You'll find that for a while now, we've been dependent on sort of single-use convenience packaging. And unfortunately, it's starting to add up, and a very small percentage of it is actually being recycled. So, you know, of all of the plastic recycling that goes through the sorting plants, only 9% of it is actually being recycled. And I live in Cleveland proper, which right now we currently don't have any recycling, even though there is a program on the horizon for us. There are communities just like mine that just don't even have it as an option. So we have to really start thinking about how we can minimize the amount of that plastic that is, you know, either being recycled or not being recycled. That all takes resources to turn it into something else, and how we can start sourcing that in a different way that we don't have to rely on the convenience packaging. And so now I feel like there are places like this that are popping up because people have had a chance over quarantine to be at home with their trash and with everything that they've created. And, you know, it kind of is that idea, well, was I generating this much trash before and I just didn't see it? Or am I generating more now because I'm home? But regardless, we've had a chance to really look over what is happening in our lives, and really, I think, what's important in our lives, and kind of reevaluate and overhaul the way that we're doing some things. And paired with the fact that there are sort of more of these resources popping up and more of these conversations sort of happening about why it's important, that it's kind of drawing people and like calling them to action. So I think that that's encouraging, and I'm happy to kind of be of service to that because we think it's super important.
Definitely. And then, so let's say a lot of people, I mean, they've heard of it maybe, but the whole concept, like you said, zero is pretty intimidating, to say zero waste.
Yeah.
And to focus on the low waste. So if someone wants to start making some steps in that direction, like what's a good starting point for people to kind of venture in on that?
Yeah, for sure. We are all about one tiny swap at a time, finding one thing that you can incorporate into your daily lifestyle that is a good fit for you, and something that you both feel comfortable doing, as well as like kind of feel, you know, take a little bit of satisfaction in that. For me, I think it started with plastic straws, and this was probably years ago. You know, I was the fanatical friend, you know, smacking straws out of my friends' hands and, you know, being like, no straws, take them away. And luckily now we're kind of at a point where people are being a little more mindful of that. So you have restaurants that don't serve you straws, or at the restaurant that I also work at part-time, we've changed to paper straws. So we've got kind of the best of both worlds. And you do see some of that happening, and some of that change that started with me, you know, smacking the straws out of everyone's hands, to actually kind of being something where it's not as much of a worry as it was, you know, maybe a year ago. So I started carrying my own straw with me, and then having to remember to ask for a beverage without a straw, I think, is sometimes the trickiest part. But for some people, it's taking their plastic bags to the grocery store, the reusable bags instead of that. There's also some swaps in the laundry room that were kind of simple for us to make. We switched to using wool dryer balls instead of the dryer sheets that are disposable. And that was something that once I made the initial investment in that, I could use those over and over and over again and not have to generate any waste in the process. So I think that it's all about finding something, one small thing that works for you, and then kind of incorporate that into your lifestyle. And once you kind of feel comfortable with that, you can try something else. You know, you can move on to another small swap. Or one of my favorites, which has also been kind of a trial to find the best, are toothpaste tabs. And sometimes those seem a little bit strange. They're literally kind of like breath mint sized tabs of toothpaste. You pop them in your mouth, you chew on it, it kind of breaks apart, and then you use the little bits to brush your teeth with. Now, there's several different brands and they all kind of have their strengths and their weaknesses. And we carry a brand at Refill Goodness called Change, which I'm just in love with because it foams really well and tastes really good. But that was one that, you know, kind of took a little bit of getting my boyfriend on board with. You know, he was kind of like squeezing it from the tube, and, you know, he tried it a few times, and I think that it ended up kind of, I think he ended up liking it more than he had let himself believe that he would. So it's all just about making that one small change and moving forward with that once you feel comfortable, because we do feel like every small change impacts a big change. There's a quote that we like to rely on and look to quite a bit from the Zero Waste Chef. And she said that we don't need a handful of people doing zero waste perfectly. We need millions of people doing zero waste imperfectly. And so I think that, you know, it could be something small, but it will continue to build as you feel more comfortable with that.
Yeah. And then, so like you gave tons of practical suggestions there, and I know like you have so many, I've seen like what you carry in your shop and you have so much cool stuff. And I think something some people might wonder is like, does this require like a lot of upfront investment to get started, or are there like key items I should have and other things I can build on?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think that there is it's sort of, will it cost me more? Yes and no. Upfront, as you're kind of replacing some of the traditional items, there might be a little more sort of investment in that. But you'll find, and we do have some great graphics on our Instagram that kind of pit two products against each other. My favorite is our laundry soap. So the laundry soap that we carry from Mama Suds is super concentrated. So you only need a tablespoon or so per load. And so while you get a smaller bottle and it feels like you're getting less and paying more, in the end, you're going to be able to do, you know, more loads than you can with that giant plastic bottle from Costco. And then you don't have to worry about having the plastic bottle that you have to, you know, properly dispose of. So there are some things like the silicone bags, or even sort of metal straws or mason jars and their accessories, or feminine care that'll require a little more investment up front, but you'll find that over the life of the product that it's going to be better for the budget and better for the environment, because you won't be having to replace it at all. Or if you do have to replace it, it's over many years as opposed to months. And then you kind of can go back to, so the first rule of zero waste is that you need to use through what you have, which sometimes can be a little bit frustrating when you're like, oh my gosh, I want to do this, I'm going to be sustainable. I'm getting rid of all my unsustainable things. You really have to kind of dial it back and use through what you have first. But the nice part about that is that then you can kind of have a sustainable swap on deck. So that once you know that you're out of dishwasher detergent, or you're out of hand soap that you stocked up on at the beginning of everything, that you'll have a replacement for that. And so you won't be tempted, you know, or kind of like, oh, what am I going to do now? And then just run to the store and continue to buy the plastic bottle full. So there are some caveats to being like, I'm going to be sustainable after I use through the 6 months worth of soap I bought at the beginning of quarantine. And there are a lot of things that you have in your home that you could be using. So do you have to buy mason jars? No. Do a lot of the foods that you choose come in glass jars that could be reused? Absolutely. The way that we have the refillery set up in shop is that we encourage people to bring their own containers, of course. We do have some new containers for purchase, but then we also do take some recyclables in that we can sterilize and then include in our jar library. So those are complimentary to use and you can refill. You know, sometimes we have people that just come in, not really knowing what we're about, and then can really still be able to take advantage of the refill format. And a lot of those jars are great. You know, some of the My favorite comes from the Hertzler's Dairy,
Oh, yeah.
the milk with the fabulous glass bottles, and they have these short little bottles. And those are amazing to reuse. I'm so happy when we see those come our way, and when I, can kind of get my hands on them as well too. But yeah, you can really utilize some of the things that you already have. Do you need to replace your cutlery set with a to-go set? You don't have to. You could, if you needed to, but you also could very easily take a set of your silverware and wrap it up in a cloth napkin and be able to kind of take that on the go. I'm sure we all have plenty of reusable shopping bags at home. Do we need to go out and purchase more? Probably not. So I feel like there's like a combination of things. There's some things that you'll invest in and that then you'll see sort of the budget benefit over time. And then there are some ways that you can kind of get creative and reuse things that maybe you've been hanging on to. Or sometimes I purchase things just because they come in more sustainable packaging, or a really cool jar or something like that. So you can also then start framing your purchases with what's going to be the most sustainable way for me to source this product. If I had a choice between a glass jar and a plastic jar, obviously I would go with the glass because I could either reuse it or it could be very easily recycled. So you do have some opportunity to start thinking sustainably even before you get the product home as well.
Great. Yeah. And then is that mindset shift of thinking like, I have a plastic versus glass option, like, how long do you think that takes to like really instill to like in your like day-to-day life where you're kind of thinking about it proactively?
Yeah, I think that once you start thinking sustainably, you can't stop, I suppose. You start looking at the world in a different way. I know that I've even started frequenting businesses that will allow me to live in a more sustainable way. One of my favorite parts of our website, which is refillgoodness.com, is we have a sustainable resources page where we include different businesses and restaurants and sort of services in the community that can help you live a lower waste life. And that's, not short of places that, there's a coffee shop right up the street that will fill my travel mug for me when Starbucks won't now. So to be honest, for the most part, when I need coffee, I'll frequent there because it's a local place. And I know that I can also not have to sacrifice my sort of sustainability mission, so to speak. Plus, there's also other ways in which you can kind of interact, or places that will help you to sort of get rid of things in a responsible way. Another one of our favorite websites is Cuyahogarecycles.org. They have a search bar in the top of the website where you can type in any item and then click the button, and it will tell you the best way to recycle that or dispose of that, or what your resources are to be able to get rid of that in the most responsible way possible. So having sort of access to those things makes it seem like there's some light all over the place, and that, when we kind of combine forces, we can make big change, and you can still, eat out and do the things that you would normally do and not generate as much waste.
And then do you have any advice for people who they're considering kind of starting to think this way, but maybe friends or like family are like, you're nuts, or this is too much work, or anything like that? Do you have any suggestions there?
Yeah, it's funny because we have sometimes a lot of people that'll come into the shop, and especially around Christmas time, that have maybe kind of been living more sustainably or more mindfully, really, even just kind of being aware of your shopping habits or what you're using or how much waste you're generating, that then have kind of want to share it with their family that maybe are like what you're saying, that are a little bit skeptical. Maybe they're giving them a hard time or whatever. And so, we can find little ways for them to be able to incorporate. So like, for instance, we do have a travel cutlery set that rolls all up and it has a snap on it. And so that's kind of like a good way to kind of like bridge the gap, right? Everyone needs, that kind of thing when they're going out. And And so I think that it's just kind of, once you make sort of a commitment to kind of just reducing waste in every little bit that you can, I think you just have to kind of stay the course and know that hopefully at some point you will become a bit of a guide for others as well too. You know, like I'm still in my own life definitely not fitting all of my trash into a mason jar. You know, I've got a 5-year-old that's here most of the week, and so we've got some, you know, packaging and things like that. But I think for us, it's like every time, you know, the other day I brought her home from school and she was like, I brought my little snack bag back because I had bought a TerraCycle box so that we could have it here to recycle her bags. And so like even her just being mindful enough to be like, instead of throwing it out, I put it back into my lunch bag so that then she could bring it home and recycle it. I think just kind of even like illustrates that ability to rub off on others in a positive way without even really trying, you know? And I think that you'll find a certain level of satisfaction once you start sort of living more mindfully, and that kind of lets you shrug off some of the naysayers, knowing that you're doing something that's important and worthwhile for yourself and your community and for the planet too.
Yeah. And then I was thinking, you mentioned that you kind of specialize on like 3 rooms in the house. Like I think you said kitchen,
Kitchen, bathroom, and laundry room.
bathroom, and
Yep.
and I guess could you pick like one thing from each room that like maybe is a good starting spot for each, like something you could maybe switch like maybe after this presentation?
Yeah, absolutely. So the laundry room has a lot of sort of really simple swaps. I talked a little bit about the wool dryer balls. I love those. I also love to use those with like a drop of essential oil on them, which will impart a fragrance like the dryer sheets will, but also kind of help with some static reduction. Another thing that was kind of a very simple swap is my laundry soap or my, we have both liquid and powder. We carry a powdered laundry soap from Dan Soap, which is actually made right in the same building where our studio is. And it's made by 2 friends named Dan that made it with the lake in mind. So if it just happened to get into the waterways, that it would not be detrimental like your traditional sort of chemical alternatives would be. We carry that in bulk. So you can bring your own container. We've got paper bags that will source it to you in. We've got some tubs that the original Dan soaps came in that you can fill up. And so I think that once you kind of are mindful about just having your own packaging for that, or some way that you're, whether it's a jar or, something being reused, even like an old coffee can, that then you can just refill that product instead of having to source it in a disposable packaging every single time. So I think, that was probably one of the easier swaps in, the home as well too, is that refill product, because it works really well. You don't need near as much of it, and you can source it very easily without packaging in a variety of different ways. I think for the kitchen, we've got a variety of different bamboo tools. So as opposed to your traditional plastic tools that, won't go away, can't be recycled. We have some scrubbing brushes. There's a pot scrubber that I like particularly, that really kind of allows you to get into the crevices of your pot. But I also enjoy the ability to switch out the head on my bamboo brush as well too, so that you don't dispose of the whole thing. You're just replacing the head on it when necessary. And then those pieces can be composted. And if you don't have a compost at home, we always encourage people to bring those pieces back to us so that we can dispose of them properly. And then for the bathroom, one of my favorites is the toilet bombs. They're literally like almost kind of like little mini bath bombs, but for the toilet bowl. So you put the toilet bomb in the toilet, it fizzes, and you allow it to completely dissolve, and then you use it to clean the toilet. We've got a couple of different varieties. We have one from Mama Suds, which has got more of sort of like a eucalyptus smell. And then we've got some that are made here in Ohio that by Greener Clean Designs that are a lemon lavender. And they both work the same. And what I like to do is just throw one in the toilet when I'm getting ready to clean. And by the time I'm kind of done cleaning the other things, the toilet's ready to go, and then I'm all done. You can also keep them in the tank to kind of freshen in between washes or flushes, I should say. And so that's another way that you can kind of just be proactive about cleaning things. We also carry bamboo toothbrushes to replace your traditional plastic toothbrush. And we have floss as well too that comes in a little glass jar, so that when you're done with the floss, you can also just get the refill inserts and then reduce your plastic packaging that way. Yeah, we really try to also offer products for what our customers need. So if you find too that there's something that you're having trouble with or that you'd like to source in a different way, you know, please let us know, because we're always looking to expand the product line to be able to really be able to make it simple for people so that there's not really an excuse to do it any other way.
Right. Yeah, that's excellent. And I was thinking, if you're maybe like, I think buying food might be another place, like a lot of individually wrapped things like that. Like when someone goes to the grocery store, there are things that they can think about that might reduce their waste in that way.
Yeah, I know that that's a really tricky part, and it's something that you know, we struggle with, and you know, probably will for a while until we can kind of, I think that there's like a push to kind of make the manufacturers responsible for packaging and thinking about that. But until then, all we can do is do what we can. So yeah, I do try to pick sort of the more sustainable options, and it will, you know, I like to shop at Aldi, but I can't bring myself to buy the vegetables there because it just is like on a styrofoam plate wrapped in plastic packaging. So I try to be sort of, I try to plan accordingly. Obviously in the summer, it's going to be a lot easier because we've got access to the farmers markets and you can kind of get what's best and what's fresh. We're lucky that we have a market in Strongsville called Allison's Superfoods Market. And it's kind of set up farmers market style where most things are loose. And so I can procure a lot of vegetables from there without the packaging. Or, you know, if you also need, you know, instead of the plastic bags, you can bring reusable bags to put your stuff in. So you can also kind of cut out some waste that way. I do try to shop in places where I know that I can source without the extra wrap around it. And then sometimes you just have to be gentle with yourself. Sometimes it's not always going to be perfect, and it, you know, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So, you know, if you, like I said, with a youngin around here, it's not always ideal to not have any packaging, but we just try to be as mindful as we can as we go. And when there are other alternatives, you know, for instance, she would like those little yogurts with the M&Ms in the one side and the yogurt, and it's all in plastic, you know. And so once I got a pile of them, because I can't recycle them and there's nowhere to go, and so I just keep them all in my recycling stream in the basement, that we then moved to just having the yogurt and then just having a bag of chocolate chips. And then I could at least put the bags from the chocolate chips into the TerraCycle box. And then luckily now in most of the communities in Cuyahoga County, their recycling company has started to take the number 5 sort of yogurt and dairy containers where they have not been before. So luckily my mom lives in that community, so one of those communities. So I just save them for her and sneak them into her recycling bin. So sometimes you also have to get creative. I think that's the other way too. I think living in Cleveland has also taught me that, because I've got to kind of separate out where my recycling can go until the point where we can resume curbside pickup. So it's not always going to be perfect, but I think as long as we're always kind of shooting for a goal, we just move along towards that. So.
And I know you mentioned composting a little bit earlier. Could you, even I don't know a whole lot about it. I've never done it.
Yeah,
Is there anything you can say about that?
yeah, for sure. We've got a great resource here in Cleveland called the Rust Belt Riders, and they're a composting service. So basically they have either in some of the communities, they have pickup where they'll pick up your compost from your house, or for like where I live, I take it to a drop off. Composting basically is taking things from nature that are going to break down, and pairing them in such a way that you create this sort of like, you know, wonderful, magical soil that you could then use in your gardens, in your plants. You can do it at home. There's actually some really great workshops just like this through the Cuyahoga County Solid Waste District that you can sign up for. I know there's actually a backyard composting class coming up towards the end of March that you can sign up via Zoom and get some more information about you know, sort of how you can set it up in your own backyard. For us, we love Rust Belt Riders because I can collect the compost here, and you can put, you know, the nice thing about Rust Belt Riders is that you can include many things that you wouldn't in your home composting. In your home composting, you wouldn't want to put too much meat or really any meat or dairy or bones. But with Rust Belt Riders, since they're doing it on such a large scale and they have the ability to really kind of monitor the levels of where they need it to be to do its magical science thing, you can include all of those things, you know. So for the most part, I put in like our citrus peels, banana peels, eggshells, coffee grounds are a lot of what goes in there. You know, sort of the cuttings that I don't save to make veggie stock. You know, sometimes when things are going south, they can also kind of go in there as well, as long as it's all a natural, from the earth, so to speak, is what they look for. And then they also do add some brown matter, which is usually like cardboard or brown paper or other things like that to kind of balance out the levels. So in your home composting, you've got to kind of be a little more mindful of how much of everything you're putting in there. But with the service, we're able to just put it in the bucket, and then whenever the bucket's, you know, full enough, I'll take it and drop it off at the site. But yeah, I think in the summer we're going to set up a little compost in the back and just kind of see how it goes. And as long as you don't put meat or dairy in it, your neighbors won't hate you because you it won't much of a smell. So
yeah, that's sometimes a concern, right?
Yeah. And it's kind of like a fun way to introduce that science to the kiddo too, you know, because there are different ways that you can compost. You can just kind of, you know, turn it and agitate it. There are also ways that you introduce worms into your compost that will also help turn over the soil for you. And so it really, there's a world of things to learn when it comes to composting. But yeah, I would recommend that if you're interested in that, to look at sort of the programs that you can do over Zoom to see how you could fit it in to your life. Plus they also sell some really reasonable containers through those programs as well too, to get you started.
Cool. Excellent.
Yeah.
I just wanted to start, does anyone have any questions that they wanted to ask specifically?
Yeah, we really do also, like in line with the composting, we're obviously sort of super big on the recycling as well. I have over quarantine became a recycling ambassador with the Cuyahoga County Solid Waste District, where we just kind of learn the ins and the outs, and then be able to kind of be an ambassador for recycling and for recycling right. To that vein, we've been trying to find alternate streams for some hard to recycle items and just being able to be sort of a resource and a hub for recycling. So once a month, we offer our recycling initiative of the month, which is usually a hard to recycle item that we'll collect during that month. And some of the programs are, to be honest with you, going to stick around. So like last month, they were bread bag clips, the little plastic clips that come on the end of your bread bags. We were collecting those for Danielle Cares for Chairs, which is an organization that collects the bread clips to then be able to turn into purchasing wheelchairs for people that are in need. So they need, like, you know, per wheelchair, it's about $250,000 of the bread tags that they need. So we started doing that, and it was for last month, but we're just gonna keep on keeping on. So if you have any of those, feel free to save those up, and, you know, you can always send them to me when you got a certain amount. But we've done batteries and the little Pack Tech rings for the 6-packs. This month it's a beauty and body care, like plastic bottles, as part of a TerraCycle program. So yeah, if you have any questions about recycling, or, you know, sort of some guidance with it, feel free to reach out with that, because we like to try to give the best information and the best resource possible.
Well, I think that's all the questions I had specifically. And if we'll just give another second if anyone has anything else to add, and if you have any closing kind of thoughts, Jen.
I'm happy to answer, even if you don't have questions now, feel free to reach out. We have both the presence on Instagram and Facebook. So if you're on either of those, feel free to give us a follow. We do have open shopping hours this weekend at the, I don't know how close everyone is, or if you want to take a road trip, but we've been opening the first and third weekend of every month in our space in the Screw Factory. So we'll be there from 11 to 3, both Saturday and Sunday. But then we also do personal shopping appointments. So if you would ever like to schedule a time to come up, kind of chat about sustainability, see what we have to offer, if you have some refills, or if you just want to come and check it out, we always love having people into the space. So that's another opportunity too down the way.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us for this, and thank you everyone for coming. We really appreciate it. And then this recording will also be on our YouTube channel, Ritter Public Library, if you want to watch again, or if you want to share it with someone. And yeah, thank you guys all so much.